Okay, if I could just jump in for a second, just to let everybody know, we're glad you're able to join us remotely, Mary Jo. The city's practice has always been that if the chair or vice chair of a committee or board is not present, then we have to find someone in the body, in the room to actually lead the meeting. And so Natalie Delo, our administrative permit specialist, is going to kick that process off, and we'll get somebody on board in the room to actually facilitate today's meeting. Natalie?
Good morning. Can we have an election for who would be the chair for today's meeting? Any nominations? All right, nomination for Tom. Second. Any others? Second. Can I have a roll call vote? Mary Jo? Yes. Tom Bucky? Yes. John Tracy?
Yes.
Andrew Rigel?
Yes.
Paul Kapla?
Yes.
And Ken Bargander?
Yes.
All right, Tom, please take over the meeting.
Don't you better read the
Okay. Get my computer back up here. Thank you. Okay, approval of the minutes from September 7th. Motion. Motion approved. Thank you. Second, Paul, or anybody. I'm sorry. Yeah. I got to learn to look at you guys on Zoom here. Any comments, questions, corrections? Ken.
Tom.
Yep.
Ken here. I just want to make it clear that on September 7th, it shows me being absent from the meeting. That I was, at that time, I was serving on the board review, and I would like to make a motion to correct that and have that say that that was an excused absence in the minute.
Okay, Natalie, I think Steve can correct us if we're wrong, but I think generally when you have a legitimate reason for not being here, it would be an excused absence. Steve?
Yeah, I know a lot of places have a separate line along with present and absent for excused. We generally have not had that for our city council and committee meetings. You know, if we want to duly note that Ken was serving on the board of review that day, which we certainly appreciate, but we can do that somehow. We can somehow note that.
Okay, I don't think
Thank you, Steve.
Mary Jo.
Yeah, the bylaws don't have a separation in that, just so you know, Tom.
Yeah.
So members are allowed to be absent, and that's not a problem, but the bylaws don't have a separation for excused or unexcused. They understand things come up in people's lives.
Sure. Okay, Natalie, we don't need a motion if you just want to note that that was an excused absence. Okay, identify potential conflicts of interest. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but anybody have any conflicts? Okay, anybody online? Thank you. Citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? Okay. Chairperson's comments. Mary Jo, do you have anything that you wanted to say as chairman?
Yeah, good morning, you guys from Detroit City. Sorry, I'm at a meeting in Detroit today. I just want to touch on attendance of the meetings and the importance of a functioning body. Obviously, we're all volunteers and we've all been appointed here by the mayor to serve on this board, and our attendance is important to be able to move the city forward and growth for our city. So.
Okay, thank you. Board members' comments. Anybody from the board have any comments? Anybody online? Okay, thank you. 205 fund balance sheet update through September 30th. Steve, please.
want to get my steps in this morning. And it'll take more than that, I think, though. But anyway, there's not much new on the new report, and there hasn't been for a little bit. Activity's been almost nil. We're still at roughly $1.2 million in fund balance. I will talk more about this, though, when we get down to project updates and we talk about the Daniels edition, because there is the issue of people not moving forward with their development and potential lot sales where the city repurchases a lot to resell to someone else. So that will affect it potentially in the future, but I'll cover that later in the agenda. Any questions?
Any questions for Steve? Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Next, housing update. Jason Gruenberg, Director of Planning and Zoning from Wood County. Good morning, Jason. Hopefully you had a good trip.
Yeah, good safe trip here. Didn't hit any deer. Hope that's the same on the way back. But yeah, good to be here and good to see everybody. I think the reason I was on the agenda is to provide a little bit of information about a housing repair program that's available in Wood County. It's kind of a little bit of a complicated conversation here because there's multiple programs like this in the county. But I'm first going to start off talking about what's called the Central Housing Region Housing Repair Program. And there's 9 counties that are involved with this. I'm not going to go over the counties, but you can I'll pass these around later, and they're all kind of located around Wood County. And what this program does, it provides 0% interest loans to homeowners that need necessary repairs. And they're able to repay those loans usually when they have the money at some point down the road. A lot of times it's when they sell the home or when somebody passes on or things like that. So a lot of times they'll get a loan for, say, $75,000 to $100,000 from the Central Housing Region at 0% interest, and they won't pay that back for maybe 20, 25, or 30 years when that home transfers under ownership. The program, the Central Housing Region program, does receive annual funding from the federal government. The funding is sent to the state of Wisconsin. And for example, next year, I believe $17 million is going to be sent to Wisconsin. And those funds will be divided up over regions in the state here. And we anticipate next year that the Central Housing Region will get about $2.5 to $3 million. So really, in 1 year, Wood County has access to, about $333,000 plus or minus. It's not prorated by counties in the region. So if you do a good job promoting the program, Wood County or Marshfield can get more funding than, say, Wapaka County or, Washera County. So it's important to promote that program. Probably one of the biggest requirements for this program is to be eligible as income. And income is based on, I think it's Section 8 low income requirements that the federal government establishes every year. And if you look that up online, there's a list, and every county has a different Section 8 low income number. I believe for Wood County, for all counties, it's based on household size. And in Wood County, I believe a one-person household that makes $35,000 has an income of $35,000 per year would be eligible. It's a really great program right now, just, driving through the county, and not just Marshfield alone, but driving through the county in Wisconsin Rapids, Nakusa, the smaller communities. You see a lot of blight. You see a lot of homes that are falling in disrepair to the point of where they won't be habitable at some point here. We have aging housing stock, like a lot of parts, like in the state and the country. And so I think a program like this is really important. It's not the silver bullet that's going to solve all the problems out there, but it's something that's well established that we can take advantage of and promote in the county here and hopefully stabilize some of these homes for families that need the help. Some of the things that you'll see being done as far as repairs out there are your obvious necessary repairs. New roofing, for example, new siding, windows. In some cases, emergency repairs for like furnaces, hot water heaters, septic systems, wells, even things like air conditioning. It sounds like a luxury, but a lot of people that have respiratory issues and things like that or elderly might need to have that to live comfortably. Even we're seeing cases where it can be used for accessibility improvements. If somebody's handicapped or has a disability, ramps and things can be put in with those funds out there. So it really is a great program and a great fund out there. Now to kind of complicate things a little bit more here. Well, let me back up here. So some of the trends we're seeing right now that are significant are a lot of lead abatement. And the reason it's significant for a few reasons here, there's a lot of lead still out there, which I didn't realize. And lead abatement is very expensive. And also on top of that, you have asbestos removal. And so when a lot of these projects are initiated, they may not be looking at lead, but a lead test or asbestos test is done. And if they're present, the remediation has to be done. And they're very expensive projects. Like, for example, I saw some projects that were for lead abatement were $75,000 for a house. And a lot of times with these lead abatement projects or asbestos abatement projects, the family has to be housed somewhere else when that work is being done. And the program does cover those costs to put the family up in a rental or a hotel. And I think they even provide a stipend for meals and things like that. So even though this is what we call, revolving loan fund, the lead abatement, I believe, is a grant portion. So even that portion of the funding is not revolving back in. That's a grant towards repair and won't come back into the program. So the program does take a little bit of a hit with some of those necessary improvemadministwith lead and I believe asbestos. Another thing that affects the revolving of the fund is we do pay an administrator to administer this program. It's a very specialized program. A few years ago, when we were looking for an administrator, we thought about doing it in-house. It's just not possible to do it in-house unless you have a specialized staff that gets proper training and keep on top of things. So in the case of this program for the Central Housing Region, we contract with Julie Olson and the Juneau County Housing Authority. They do an outstanding job, and this is something they specialize in. And really, for everybody in the room here, you don't have to know much about this program at all besides the contact information for the Central Housing Region. So if you know somebody that you think might need the help, give them that contact information. You don't have to get very deep into the program and try to determine if they're eligible. Our administrator will do an eligibility determination, for them at some point. I won't go too long here, but some of the other programs that we have, they're layered in. Marshfield has a program like this, pretty much the exact same rules because it's federal money. And the way it's managed is kind of mandated that way. Wood County has a program like that as well, countywide. And then a few other municipalities in Wood County have a program like this, like City of Wisconsin Rapids and Pittsville, and I think Nakusa. Now, how the layering works is, in order to have access to the Central Housing Region funds, the county funds and the city funds for Marshfield have to be pushed out and be utilized in order to get to the regional fund. So so Marshfield does definitely have access to those funds. You just have to promote your local fund first and get those funds out there. Fortunately, the city of Marshfield has the same administrator that the Central Region is administered by, the Juneau County Housing Authority. So they kind of know how those programs work together. So at this point, I entertain any questions regarding the program. I want to talk a little bit more about some other housing stuff if I could have the time.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody? Ken, go ahead.
Ken here. Jason, how many people have taken advantage of that in the last 12 months? The 0% loan?
The last report that I saw, of the 9-county region, Wood County always fares really well as far as participation. When it comes to dollars, I don't know quite as, when you look at the number of participants, but I think in the last cycle here, we had about 250-some thousand of funds put towards projects. And this cycle's not done. This cycle, the funds have to be committed, I believe, in a few months here. So we'll know in a few months what the past year looks like. But Wood County's always done really well as far as having people utilize the program when you look at dollars. So one thing to keep in mind is there's no cap. I think this pamphlet said there's a cap on the size of a project. There really isn't anymore. The federal government does not allow there to be a cap on a project. So somebody can come in requesting a new roof and thinking it's a $20,000 project, and they could end up with a $100,000 project once it's found out that there's damage in walls, windows need to be replaced, and lead abatement needs to be done. With this program, you can't like just put a roof on a bad house and move forward. You have to address all the issues that make the house a healthy, safe living environment.
Anybody else?
Tom,
Go ahead, Kim.
Tom,
Sure. Yep.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Does the county have any type of grant program where they don't have to pay back the money?
No, we don't at the moment here. I know there's specialized programs out there, I believe. I know of one program that helps with septic repair. That's called the Wisconsin Fund Grant Program. And that is a grant that covers a portion of a new septic being put in. There's also a program out there, I believe, for wells. So I think what you'll find is you'll find some specialized programs out there for different pieces like that, but nothing directly from like county levy that would provide grant funding for repairs at the moment here. But I'll talk a little bit more about housing and what, that there could be something like that in the future.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mary Jo has
Mary Jo.
Hey, good morning, and thank you for the presentation. Do you have any best practices from other counties on getting the word out for this program? Obviously, you're presenting here to this body, and we're going to spread the word, but is there any other counties that are doing really well with it?
Like I said, Wood County statistically is doing well in our region as far as the dollars spent, but we could always do better. And as I mentioned, there's no cap on the amount of money that Wood County could get out of our 9-county region. It's not prorated out. So the better job we do promoting the program, the more funding we get. I think in the past, the way to get the word out is probably through like the human services type departments at the county. I think through the cities, if you have code enforcement team out there, a lot of times you could, if you're working with a household and you suspect they might have some income challenges or financial challenges, you could maybe give them information on the program. Yes?
Go ahead.
Real follow-up. Is Pat Kilty in the room at all?
No.
I think this would be great to be able to provide him this information. I recommend that we get this in his hands because he's dealing with code enforcement and stuff like that. I think that would be a good spot because obviously, like he said, if the more we get the word out, there's no cap on it. So help improve our area. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mary Jo, that's a really great suggestion. And based on what you said and what Jason was saying, I'll definitely follow up with our building inspection staff and our code enforcement folks in the ordinance section, because they do encounter people from time to time who have some issues with their homes that they can't afford to deal with. So that's a great idea.
I think another thing I would like to do, we have a great communication department, and Jason, if you'd be willing to sometime come up and they could interview on this type of thing to get the word out.
Yeah, I could even invite, I know enough to be dangerous about this program, but I could even invite the program administrator up here and she could talk more about the specific eligibility requirements and things like that.
Great idea. Thank you. Anybody else? Mary Jo, go ahead.
I even think like a Facebook post or something too with our communications department to do some sort of little campaign so people know about it, working with the city. I think that would be helpful as well. Any sort of social media stuff.
Good idea.
I think that the promotion ideas are good. One thing that's nice about this program is there's federal money or CDBG, Community Development Block Grant funding that's applied to the fund annually. So it's a program that really doesn't ever quit. It just, it may run out of funding shortly until new funds are infused, but it just kind of keeps on going. So it's a program that you can get a lot of mileage out of if you promote it well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions on that, as long as Jason's up here, we'll do the update on the status of the... Go ahead, Jason.
Mr. Acting Chairman, if I could talk a little bit more about some of the housing initiative of the county.
Go ahead.
So, as you know, there's a lot of issues with housing right now. And I think everybody's trying to understand them better, but, we're dealing with housing stock issues, high interest rates. There's not there's high rent costs, things like that. Just many, many issues out there, affordability. And so this is a big issue, not just in Wood County, but the region and state. And so we've put together a housing task force for the county here. And the group is comprised of not just government type people. We want to get some realtors involved, people that work out in the community, some developers, to kind of look at housing issues and see if we can make an impact on some of those issues. We had our first meeting on the 31st of October, and we had real good participation there. Had a good Marshfield presence in that group. And we'll probably be reporting back to this group on occasion with updates on where things are heading. But potentially that group could lead or promote some possible initiatives down the road. We're kind of in the early stages yet, but at some point I imagine we'll come forth with some recommendations on how we can make an impact with housing issues in the county.
Any questions on what Jason has brought up? You have anything else, Jason, before I make you be the bad guy with the grant thing?
I'll start with that one.
Are you going to be the bad guy?
No,
Steve,
Thanks,
go
Steve.
ahead.
Thanks, Tom. I'm grateful to Jason for coming here in person today and being part of this meeting. I did not ask him to comment on this. We might talk to you a little bit in this conversation about the process that they've gone through, but I think we all know that, and again, thanks to you, Tom, for bringing forward the fact that the city did not apply for grants through the SEED committee last year. We did this year. You've got an updated statement in your packet. We have had some reductions, and it's unfortunate, but I totally get it. I was kind of overwhelmed by the thought that they got $1.2 million in requests initially. And I was also very pleased to see that their initial recommendation from the SEED committee was for about $657,000 of grants, about 50%, more than 50% actually, of what had been requested. But it turns out that amount of money probably was greater than they were allowed to be allocating. And it's come back from the operations committee that in fact is the case. So they were directed to reduce that to $400,000. They did meet in the early part of October, and they have made some changes. So what you have in your packet is an updated sheet that shows the original request made, not only by city departments, but also the ones that were made for other community projects. And then what the first recommendation was from SEED, and now what the revised recommendation is going to ultimately, I believe, the county board now, if the operations committee is okay with it, as part of the total county budget this month. So the good news is you still see that we have about $42,000 worth of city projects that are still in the hopper for funding, $25,000 toward the Brain Park pickleball courts, $12,500 toward the Wenzel Family Plaza restrooms, and $5,000 toward the historic signs and brochures for our historic districts here in the community. And then there's some other city projects. They're not city projects, but community projects that still are expected to get money. You see the list there: Upham Mansion, $25,000, and then general funding for Mackey, Main Street, and the airport, which is privately run, even though it's part of the city. So, they're good monies. They're going to help us. Again, I'm not trying to, I'm frustrated, I guess, about the fact that the SEED committee didn't seem to know initially what their limit was. And I guess there was some confusion there. I've interacted with the council president, Ed Wagner, on this, that apparently the word had been given earlier in the year that there was supposed to be a lower threshold of dollar amount to allocate. But I'm also thankful for the fact that we still have some money that's been, at least for the time being, allocated to city projects, and hopefully the county board will bless that later in November. With that in mind, I would take any questions, and if there's any questions about the process that Jason can help with, maybe he can address those as well, since he's part of the county process.
Any questions for Steve? I would just say, being on the SEED committee, which we met yesterday, we are looking at maybe tightening it up a little bit for the criteria. What is economic development? So that's still going to be talked about. I mentioned we don't want to do it quickly. We want to think about this and really get the money where economic development is pretty much a no-brainer, I guess I would say. But yeah, you're right, Steve. We were shocked that we thought we had more money, and everybody thought because we had, I think, Jason, 30 people or organizations that came through. Yeah. And so it was quite a few more than other years. So we thought we would be spending more money. But we're trying to work this all out and get the information and criteria. So
yeah, and I respect that, Tom. I'm not surprised. I've seen the list not only from this year but last year, and some of the projects on the list of requests do kind of bend the boundaries of what one people would consider to be economic development. Having said that, I know that there are a lot of things that people don't consider economic development that really are. I think parks and trails and those kind of things, they all play into trying to get an employer to want to bring their company here, bring their employees here. But I do respect the fact that there probably needs to be a little bit of review of the criteria for what's considered for these grants.
Steve, I have a question. Are there any projects in the hopper?
Would you turn your mic on, John?
Oh, sure. I think it is on. Anyway, all right. Are there any projects in the hopper, as you put in Marshfield, that might be at risk now because of these reductions?
I don't think so, John. I mean, like a couple of the ones that we are getting funding for, we have other funding sources to supplement. We're just hoping to get some of the money from elsewhere rather than fundraising and those types of things. And the Brain Park pickleball courts would be one of those. There's a committee that's come to the council. They're working hard to raise money for that project. And, any dollars we can get from outside of that fundraising campaign would be helpful. We don't know how far that campaign is going to get. But there's other things. For example, one of our projects was a crosswalk for 19th and Central, where we're going to have a mini golf course going across from the Bandy Waters Aquatic Center. And I think we'll probably try and find a way to do that if we can, because we feel that safety, some proper lighting and whatnot to guide folks across that busy street from one amenity to the other is something that is really warranted. But it was certainly made more likely to happen sooner if we had those dollars. But I don't see anything that's greatly at risk that's not going to come as a result of this. These projects just would have been helped by the fact that the monies were there. There's some things that won't happen on this list, perhaps, but they're not necessarily mission critical.
Anybody? John, did you have something else? Oh, who's it? Ken, go ahead.
Ken. Hey, I just big shout out to yourself. You really lit a fire underneath the city's, what. And, it's 42,500, but I don't think without you, we would have been zero. So kudos to you. And maybe next year we'll be more organized and we'll be able to secure more funds for our city projects. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree, Tom. Thanks again for bringing it to our attention earlier in the year. And whatever the new criteria is, we'll work with it. And the department has got very much engaged at the city level in this process, so we will stay that way.
And I got it. I was very critical before I was on the board about, I was frustrated because we weren't applying for a lot of grants, but I got to give a attaboy to Steve. I mean, he took it on and got things going. So we're looking to the future to use what's available. So thanks, Steve.
Welcome.
Anybody else on this item? Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay.
Mary Jo has something.
Mary Jo, go ahead.
I guess I would like to have some discussion on possibly, we have the budget to help that pickleball. I mean, that's going to be it's the fastest growing sport. And that would pull people into town if we get those pickleball courts coming and done. Is there any discussions that anyone wants to have on maybe helping out that pickleball so we can get that moving forward? I agree with John, like these projects are potentially at risk. There are other fundings, but you have this group now out doing fundraising for something that they were hoping to move forward with fairly quickly. So it's pulling people into Marshfield. I don't know of other pickleball courts in the area, but if we want to discuss that, I think their shortfall looking at it here is $25,000.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, maybe a good idea, Mary Jo, would be to have Justin Casperson, our Parks and Recreation Director, come to the next meeting and address that. He's working with that committee. It's a public-private partnership that's coming together for this, I think, similar to the projects I know, Tom, you've been involved in the past with the library and community center where, it's everybody working together to accomplish a goal. But he can maybe talk a little bit about where things stand in terms of the dollars for that project and whether or not this body could lend a hand along the way.
Mary Jo, could you get that on the next agenda then for Justin to be here, working with Steve to talk about that?
I absolutely can do that.
Thank you.
We need to make a motion or vote or anything on that, or
No.
is that just okay?
No.
Okay.
Okay, we are on consider request to repurpose the use of 2023 budget funds from Main Street, Marshfield.
Thank you, Tom. I'll start this, and then Kaylee Gomez from Main Street Marshfield can add to that as she feels appropriate here. But what you have before you, and you have a memo in your packet that Kaylee did approach me about possibly repurposing some of the funds that they were approved for by this body in the budget for 2023. There were $14,813 approved by the EDB through the 205 fund for planters. And they've used some of that money for some summer planters, but they'd like to look at repurposing some of the other funds for more of a lasting improvement. And some of the things that Kaylee had mentioned to me that I put in the memo might be structural elements to the downtown gardens, possibly some decor for the Christmas season, whatever. And I would be supportive of that because I think that the idea of having something that might be longer lasting has some merit to it. I'd like to ask her to come up and maybe address that if she's got any more comments on what they're trying to achieve at the board level. But that is the request, to allow them to not get more money, but to repurpose for use for reimbursement the monies that they've already been allocated.
Hey, Kaylee.
As this group knows, we're always trying to find ways to leverage our money in the best way possible. And we've been doing fall and winter planters for quite some time. We want to continue with summer planters, but fall and winter is always a little bit trickier to not only fundraise for, but also see when snow starts to fall on the greenery and things like that. The design committee is looking at possibly bringing in some sculptural elements, both to Central Avenue and possibly the rear parking lots. They would also like to fundraise for holiday decorations on light poles at some point to just bring more of a warm light instead of that bluish original LED light that's there. It remains to be determined what exactly they would use this money for. First, they wanted to determine if they could actually use it for something else that would be beautification downtown. The remaining funds for planters would be $6,837.80 that would be available to us for something different.
Okay, I would entertain a motion if you so desire to transfer that money to the project that Kaylee and Steve talked about. Mary Jo, is that a motion?
Second.
Second, who would need a first? Ken, did you have your hand up?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said, I apologize. I make a motion to transfer those funds for her so that she can use that to repurpose. So
Paul seconds the motion. Discussion. Andrew.
Ms. Gomez, you said that we have about 6,000 left to repurpose. How far is that going to get? Because I guess in my limited knowledge of sculptures and the such, 6,000 may not be a lot. Do you expect it to be a pretty big impact, or where does that fall?
It's a great question. I think now that the committee knows that it's possibly available, they would determine the best use of that, because if we have to use it within the year, I don't know if they would buy a couple towards the general stock that they would like to see downtown. There's been some discussion about small sculptures from Clyde and buying those one at a time as we see funds come in and placing them in different areas downtown, so that's a possibility.
Okay, does that answer your question,
thank you.
Andrew?
It does, yes, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylee. Number 11, discuss possible comprehensive economic plan. Rick Kinsey.
Yeah, if it's okay, as Rick comes up, I just maybe thought it'd be appropriate if Mary Jo, if you could make a couple comments. This is an item that Mary Jo brought to my attention a couple of days ago, and maybe just a brief intro, and then Rick can take off with his presentation.
Okay, Mary Jo, you got the floor.
Sounds good. Thank you. So section 3 of our bylaws, our duties, say that number 1A, prepare and maintain a comprehensive economic development plan. And I feel with this board, our time on this board comes and goes, and I feel having a short-term and long-term comprehensive plan for this board will serve it well for when we pass it to the next people on it. So I had reached out to Rick. He is a professional in this area. That's what I do when I don't know everything about something. I reach out to people around me to try to fill in those voids. And that's why Rick is here today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rick, and you can kind of give a brief presentation to the board.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Rick?
And thank you for the last minute and thanks too for the introductions and for the opportunity. My name is Rick Kinchy. I live in Appleton. I'm the Executive Director for Community Impact and various initiatives that we use, but primarily such things as brokering peace in Southside Chicago with the GDs and the BDs, which is Gangster Disciples and the Black Disciples, but leveraging economics for neighborhood revitalization, specifically in impoverished neighborhoods. Most of my time is spent commuting to Milwaukee. 7 years ago, many of you might recall Sherman Park was on fire with a night of anger and rage following the death of Seville Smith, and leveraging economics again, specifically in impoverished neighborhoods. And so much of my time has been doing, whether that's Upstart Kitchen, which was birthed out of the ashes, which was a place for an incubator for culinary artists. So 35 people are moving out of their home kitchens into a commercial kitchen and being able to explore their own business. And then there's coaches and mentors to actually help them plant their restaurants or food trucks. Then we planted a grocery store because the number one issue from the city council is access to fresh fruits and vegetables beyond the convenience stores. And so economics once again led us into groceries. And that has now celebrated the 1-year anniversary. And now we just open up a laundromat in order to have equitable income in order to regenerate into the local neighborhood without having to ask for grants and perpetual funding. We're actually generating our own resources for the neighborhood for sustainability. Through that journey, I have come to know Adam Fisher, County Supervisor, as well as spending, well, now 12 months with Jody and Health and Human Services. And her team and Adam came on down for the 1-year celebration of the grocery store, because a lot of our conversations have been what I do in the impoverished neighborhoods and the urban communities, what's applicable and transferable to Wisconsin's heartland. And so Wood County has been an epicenter of exploration and things like that. So that is somewhat what brings me here, is just those conversations with Wood County. My passion is governance. I love bringing bylaws to life to be able to align resources with clear communications to evaluate or to execute the plans and to evaluate the strategies. And so, when it comes to economics, very obviously aware of TIFs, but there are 3 other acronyms that I completely adore: BIDS, NIDS, and GIS. So business improvement districts coupled with neighborhood improvement districts. And then obviously geographic information systems, so mapping. And to be able to actually visualize what many of us kind of already innately kind of know, but to actually substantiate that and showcase that in order to rally more community support or partners or whatever. So when it comes to like comprehensive plans, I was the lead petitioner for our township in the Appleton area, and we incorporated as a village. I also got served to be on the city comprehensive planning process. So I know what comprehensive sometimes means, quite extensive, right? Very wide in the amounts of things that have to be covered. and then reviewed, 10 years, and we do it again. To me, comprehensive, though, is, I would say, much more, from my perspective, precision. I think of it much more as drilling. So rather than a city comprehensive plan, I almost think of an economic comprehensive plan as drilling. And so because you want to be very precise, because you want to go deep, because that's where the treasure is, right? On the surface, all we see is scarcity. But when you actually take the precision, you drill deep, you start to see the abundance of the different layers that would be not just the tip, but like I said, the business improvement district is creating community among the businesses in a way that the NID, or the neighborhood improvements, is actually creating community around a specific neighborhood. And bringing those together and visualizing that in the mapping then allows us to really see a comprehensive plan that might strategically, I would oftentimes assume that we would talk to the school districts and say, which of the schools has the most pain? My hunch is if we were to map police activity, that school would also be servicing a neighborhood that perhaps has higher density of police calls. And so looking for a new level of neighborhoods to be engaged in this economic conversation, who right now do not have voice, do not have power, do not have equity, but listening to their dreams and bringing that to life. And so the other thing about comprehensive planning, if it's drilling, it's not just the precision, but it's also the realities of, now I just forgot my word here and things like that. Oh, no, I just forgot it. But anyways, the whole idea is to go deep, discover the resources, which would be the ABCDs, asset-based community development, and really exploring the assets that are already available and just accentuate those. So it's still comprehensive, but a different perspective, and just being available however it might be. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Rick? Okay, thank you, Rick. Next, number 12, project updates. Facade program. Steve, you're going to just go through these and call whoever is appropriate.
Thanks, Tom. I think there are updates on most of these. I'll be fairly brief with it. On the facade program, we're in the process right now of reimbursing Karen Miller for the work on the back part of the 111 East 4th Street building. This is a grant that was made back in 2022 that's still being finished up. This is not the one that was approved earlier this year for 113 East 4th Street, but just the final payment on that original one. And just to note that we have $70,000, I'll talk about the budget in a minute, but $70,000 approved for facade grant program in 2024, and we still have $12,000 left over from this year, so that'll give us a good starting point for advertising in early 2024 for a new round of facade grant and interior conversion projects. On the 2024 city budget, we had 3 meetings, the last of which was on a week ago Tuesday, and the budget now has been approved by the council to send a public hearing. That will be on Tuesday, November 21st at 6 o'clock here, and if all goes well in the public hearing, they will approve the budget and set the tax levy that night. This is the first year under the new system whereby, with a new policy from council, that the money from the utilities dividend goes directly to the council as opposed to being passed through to this body. But I did ask this body to make a recommendation, and I think the council took it very seriously. The only change that the council has made to this point to the recommendation that came from EDB on the 2024 budget involves consulting services. You'd put in $25,000 for an economic development action plan and $25,000 for other consulting services that might be needed during the year. The council's had discussion a lot lately, and I'll touch on that in a moment, about the West 2nd Street redevelopment plan and Vanderwall, who'd like to continue their work from the original project into the implementation phase. So the council did direct that the $25,000 of that money, basically the consulting services, $25,000, be used for the first phase of that contract with Vanderwall to try and get the West 2nd Street project off the ground. Everything else stays intact the way it was presented to them. Denyon Homes, TID 13, still working on that one. The project got approval of the final plat since our last meeting. I think that was late September. So that's been blessed. We're working with them right now on a development agreement at staff level. Hope to bring something to the council in the next 30 to 60 days. They would like to begin work in 2024. Again, for those who don't know what we're talking about in this one, that's a development at the southeast corner of 21st and Washington, and in mixed-use TIF district number 13. It would be a mix of single family mainly, but also some twin homes along the east side of Washington, and then a few 4-unit buildings on the south side. So we're excited to see that one hopefully continue. TID 14, that's the Jeff Hill project involved in that. First of all, TID 14 itself, the district was approved by the council and the Joint Review Board in late September, so that has been created. That's the area, again, up between Marwood and Fleet Farm on the east side of Veterans Parkway. And but Jeff Hill is the contractor looking at trying to build some 2-unit and 3-unit buildings up there. And we've been working with him. He did get approval from the Plan Commission for rezoning that property to MH12, which is necessary for the multifamily housing. That will now go to the council. It will have to be an ordinance because that's what rezonings are. So that would go to council for first reading on November 14th, and then if that goes well, to final reading on November 28th. So that's all the steps just to do the planning part. The conversations with Jeff Hill continue, though, as to how many units he'll be able to get on there. Would the city be able to help with some of the development costs? That's all still being discussed and worked through. Daniel's Addition, a few things. First of all, Woodstock is moving forward. They purchased 2 lots in the development. They're looking at building on one of them in 2024, so we're working on that with them. Green Tree had purchased 4 lots in the development. 2 they've already built on. And we're following up with them on some issues with respect to those properties, you probably know. And then, but the other 2, they have decided they no longer want to build on. So under the agreement we had with them, the city then will repurchase those lots and then make them available for resale to someone who wants to move forward with building homes. It's all about getting homes built. So if we have developers who have their plans have changed, we don't want them just holding them. That's why we put that clause in the development agreement. So the city will be repurchasing those. That will show up on your next financial statement in terms of a reduction in that fund balance from the 205 fund. We also we're working with others who have purchased lots, and there are a few of them. I think we've talked about this before, but they haven't built on them. And working with the city attorney, came out of a closed session of council. What is your intent? Is your intent to go ahead and build? If so, we need to get some sort of an updated agreement with you. If not, then you're back into the world of selling it back to the city for resale and redevelopment. So there are things happening there. We'll keep working on it. Weinbrenner Shoes, Josh Miller, who does our economic development consulting work from the company Cedar Corporation. He and I now finally have a tour and a meeting set up with them for December 1st. It's been a long time coming. We've been trying to put this together, but scheduling issues apparently have gotten in the way. And we're also trying to get them plugged in with the other agencies that can help them potentially with workforce development grants and other assistance as part of a total package that the city can put together. Jeff Burns, the president of Weinbrenner, has reached out to me and said he wants to execute the leases to continue to operate on the current site. What they signed a few years back was a 3-year agreement from 2021 to 2023. So they have a lease through the end of this year. The 4th year for 2024 is a unilateral extension, and they've already indicated they want to continue operating there. The 5th year requires both parties to sign on. So the last piece of the lease requires council approval to allow them to lease the property for the calendar year 2025. Weinbrenner has made it fairly clear to me in all conversations I've had with them that their intent is to build in 2025, start building, finishing in 2026. So they would definitely need to be leasing that property they're on right now through the end of calendar year 2025. So we'll continue discussions with them on their plans. I think I've said before that it's not exclusive. They're looking at other opportunities besides Mill Creek Business Park. We hope to work with them on a solution to keep them here in the city of Marshfield. They like the workforce here. They like the community. So we'll keep working on that one together. I mentioned the West Second, the Housing Committee. I do want to talk about this for a minute. We haven't been able to get that first meeting going. And I'll talk offline to Mary Jo and Ken because I've been sending out emails to some of the members and we just haven't been able to get a response for a quorum of that body. And so if the two of you, one or both of you, are having scheduling issues where it doesn't work out for you, we'll maybe have to find somebody else on this body, but we want to get that committee meeting to talk about housing in general for the community. The whole package, everything from a type of housing, multifamily versus single family, price points, where is the city best able to use its limited resources to try and facilitate more residential growth. So look for something from me on that. That's very soon. West 2nd Street plan, I talked about it a minute ago. Vanderwall is our presumed consultant for the implementation phase of that project. And hopefully, if this all comes together and we sign an agreement with them for the first phase, they'll be able to kick that off with the beginning of calendar year 2024, which would be exciting. I think we all know there's some challenges to the West 2nd Street redevelopment plan. Two of the big pieces, obviously, are relocating the city public works garage and relocating Weinbrenner. But I think we've all agreed in some of the conversations we've had on the side that even before those things come together, there's pieces that can be put into place and really should be put into place to prepare for the redevelopment that we want to see on that part of the downtown. Certified sites program, I haven't talked to Karen lately. Do you have any update? What? Oh,
Do we still have you folks online?
Yeah, we're still here. We
Okay.
just, obviously you can't see us.
Can't see you, so
okay.
unless we get it corrected, just speak up and then we'll go from there.
I don't know what's going on.
They can hear us and everything.
Yeah, we can hear everything just fine.
Oh, why is it? Okay, I don't know why that screen even came up. I don't. It's been up here the whole last 10 minutes that I've been talking.
There you go.
Thanks a lot.
And we're back.
That's why you get the big
welcome back.
I didn't know I did anything with my papers.
Okay, for certified sites, we are on the home stretch. We have everything submitted. From my understanding, Tom Turchi has been very good about getting us the final pieces. My understanding is it's in review with the state and the developer company site selection group. So hopefully that will come through very quickly here, and then we'll be ready to market that.
Thank you. My apologies to everybody. I didn't realize how sensitive it was when I set my papers on that laptop, and then I obviously didn't know how to correct it. So thank you, Natalie. Dental Crafters is still moving forward with their improvement. They've gotten approval by the city right now. I believe Tom Turchi, our Director of Public Works, is working with them on the survey to split off 1 acre of the city land to sell to them, to allow them to have additional parking on the north side for employees. They've grown the number of employees and they need to have more paved parking. Review of EDB bylaws. Mary Jo, you and I haven't talked about this recently. I don't know if there's any updates on that one.
Yeah, Russ and I spoke yesterday on the EDB bylaws. We need to get our committee together. It's been a little hard with people being absent and stuff, but we do have to finish that up because that is our governing document.
Okay, thank you. And then the last update I have on the list is Marshfield Town Center, formerly called Marshfield Mall. Good things are happening out there. Ross Dress for Less opened in October. That's great. The final piece to come is Hobby Lobby, and I've heard that they're definitely going to open by January, but it's thought that they might even be able to open yet in December. And I know there's a lot of buzz for that project as well. So most everything that has been expected has come to pass. I know they're still trying to work on getting Planet Fitness out there, but there've been some challenges trying to find a way to accommodate that project. But otherwise, everything else has come together fairly well on the redevelopment out there. I would take questions on any or all of these projects or anything else.
Anybody have any questions on the Mary Jo?
Thank you, Steve, for an update on things. I'm a little concerned with the Weinbrenner project. The comment towards the end was, they are courting other places. Is there anything we can do as a body, and I guess I put this out there to us as a group, to possibly purchase the piece of land that they want so they can move forward and get that going? I don't want to see Weinbrenner leave. And if it's a matter of you guys working through some stuff, I completely understand. But I think to get that parcel of land going in their name in that Mill Creek, that area that they want, they have their building plans, they know the site that they want. we're here as an economic development board to make sure we don't lose a business like that. I really feel strongly that we need to do what we can to keep them. And if there's some way that we can purchase that chunk of land for them, I guess I would like to have our body entertain that.
First of all, I appreciate the urgency. We definitely want to keep them here. It's land that we already own. It's in Mill Creek Business Park. It would be us, selling or otherwise transferring that site to them. I've got a long, extensive series of emails of contact with them, Mary Jo, and I know they've got a lot of things to work through. They've got a business to run, and on a lot of fronts. But I've been trying to find out from them for a while whether or not they, when do they actually need to have control of the site by? We normally don't provide the site that far in advance of a development agreement and a construction timeline, but we're willing to do whatever it takes. We've made that known between Josh Miller and me, reached out my hand many times to them. We've been trying to schedule this meeting for quite a while involving the folks from WEDAC and others who are ready to meet with them and be able to sit down in a room after the tour, let them know what they have to offer so that we can put a final package together. So please understand, I'm not being disparaging toward the company at all. They're wonderful people. I really like Jeff and their team, but it's not from lack of effort to try and get to the point where I think you and others want to see us. But they're engaged. I mean, like I said, he sent me a note yesterday saying we want to extend the lease. We want to keep talking with you. We're looking forward to meeting with you again. But we'll keep doing whatever we can to make it known that we want them to stay in Marshfield, and we'll do what we can to make that happen.
What do we need to do to get the land in their name? You need that development agreement in place? Is that what needs to happen, Steve?
Well, first I'd like to hear a little bit more from them. I mean, again, like I said, we've asked them if they need control of the land. Would an option do? Do we need to actually do we need to sell them the parcel? And I've never gotten confirmation of that. And by what date do they actually need that? If we get calls today and somebody says, hey, I'm interested in that lot in the Mill Creek Business Park, we're certainly going to let it be known that we're working with someone to try and bring a major project to fruition on that site and talk to them about other parcels that might be able to accommodate their needs. So, it doesn't have their name across it in big print, but effectively, we've got it sort of set aside that this is what we're expecting to or hoping will happen there. I mean, I'll do whatever it takes. Like I said, I make regular contact with them. I can't make them meet with us or submit stuff to us, but they know we're here. They appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the meeting in a couple weeks, or I guess maybe it's like 3 or 4 weeks now, but to be able to share more where they're at, get more of their numbers as far as what the construction value is going to be, so we know how much we can offer them in TIF assistance and get something on paper.
Okay. Anybody else questions for Steve on his presentation? Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Tom.
Next item, economic development activity updates. Main Street, do you have anything?
We just wrapped up Hallow Week, which brings roughly 1,500 kids, just kids, so with their parents downtown in front of our storefronts, experiencing business owners hands-on who are handing out candy and sometimes flyers for Christmas and things like that. We love that event. We appreciate the police department and streets department and their presence downtown partnering with us on that event. It's just a wonderful quality of life aspect for families and great for our business exposure. In addition to that, we had a fall beer and cider walk, which brought our highest ticket sales for that event because it's still a relatively new event at 86 participants who all spent money downtown as they were sampling beers throughout. Appreciate it to see that grow, and we hope to continue to grow that. And we have the Holiday Wine Walk coming up on December 2nd, which very similarly really boosts holiday sales for our downtown businesses. And we usually see between 100 and 150 participants on that one because the weather is cold, but people still want to do it. Holiday Parade is coming up. Small Business Saturday is coming up. We are partnering with Mackey on that to make sure that it's a really quality event. Parks and Recreation will be partnering to bring in Santa, Mrs. Claus, live reindeer, and various other things in the parks throughout the holiday season as well. And again, our goal is always to stimulate the economy during the holidays and leverage that as much as we possibly can. So that's what's on our radar right now. Any questions for me?
Anybody have any questions for Kaylee? Where's the leftover candy? In the parade, yes. Okay, Main Street, Mackey, Karen? Sorry, Matt, but we got to get the ladies first.
Okay, all right, I'm kind of out of order here, but I'll just start with the top thing that I have down. Went to the WIDA conference, so the state conference that was up in Wausau. Some really good topics. They talk about all the issues we talk about, housing, childcare, all of that. One of the main things that came out of that meeting though, and Kaylee and I have already met on that, we want to do something with succession planning. We really feel we need to bring some speakers in. We need to do some education. You know, we have some businesses downtown, particularly, that we're seeing where they're aging out and they're not even selling their businesses. You know, they're closing the door. We can't have that happen. And then sometimes they get bought out by companies that may relocate them elsewhere. And again, that's throughout the city. So I think if we can educate and then give them some other options on ESOPs and other things that they might be able to do. So we're working on planning that for early spring, if not before, but we really feel that needs to be a focus for us. Years ago, we looked at that topic too, and I think it just needs to really be resurfaced here. And I've had some side conversations with people of, again, there's some people in the community that want to invest in some of these types of businesses. How do we connect those investors with some money, with some businesses that might be looking at selling, or, you know, they don't have kids or other people that are interested in those businesses? How do we make those connections? So I'm open to ideas, and maybe we'll have a side committee to look at that, but I think it's a really good topic. Yesterday, I attended a women's conference, Women's and Entrepreneurial Conference in Stevens Point. Very well attended, at least 100 and some women and some men. I assisted with the SCORE group. The nice thing is there was students there from the university that many of them are looking at possibly starting their own business. What are they going to do with their future? They're looking for jobs. So we made some really good contacts there and some really, really good speakers. So once I get the slide deck from that, I may share some things with this body or others that could use some of that information. Our Wood County Child Care Task Force, I hope I'm not stealing some of this away from Jason. I'm on that committee, and we're continuing to move forward. I'm glad to be a part of that. They definitely have secured a $75,000 grant, and looking at ways that we can use that funding to help the child care facilities, whether it's in expanding, whether it's helping them get more workforce or whatever they need. We had 6 strategies we were looking at. We realized that's way too many. So we're now focusing back on 3. So we'll continue to update this body as things happen there. Also part of the Wood County Entrepreneurial Task Force. Well, it's actually beyond Wood County. It's a state and regional group, and really excited about that. The North Central Regional Planning did an entrepreneurial survey, and I will share that link with this group because I think you would find it interesting. I wasn't shocked by any of the results, but I think there's some things in there we can look at and come up with ideas and ways to make it better for entrepreneurs and their connections and all of that. So watch for more to come on that. C2 Makerspace, we've got about 4 classes that are finally running, and they're running well, and they're doing some good things. We just saw the draft of the Uniquely Wisconsin video that, again, Wood County paid for. Very, very excited about how that turned out, because you know what? It focused on the kids. It focused on the kids building a robot, and they were excited, and they were talking on camera about, I don't know how old they were, maybe 9, and they were talking about things that were like way over our heads, but they were inquisitive and they were excited, and this is what we want to portray. So once the critiques are done on this, we can attach them to our videos, whether it, you know, our websites, the cities, the counties, the chambers, get more people involved in utilizing that space. I think there's a lot more we can do with that. We continue to do a ton of ribbon cuttings. I know last month I reported, I think we had 4 or 5. We're on track to do 4 or 5 again, but that's great. That means there's new businesses, and it's everything from new game stores to just a new location to a new Indian restaurant. If you haven't heard, they had their soft opening yesterday. A few of you were invited to taste test the food. I was out of town, so I didn't get that opportunity. It is called Al Medina. It is on the south side by the BP. They're hoping to grow out of that location, maybe eventually build. They are true Indian restaurateurs, and so excited to see how that develops. And we're helping them along the way because they're good at cooking, but they have never run a restaurant. So some things to learn there. And again, we're holding hands with them. I don't know if I missed it on the agenda or it got changed, but Mary Jo, you had on there something about restaurants, looking at brainstorming some ideas for additional restaurants in the community. So I have some thoughts on that, and we have developed kind of a list of places we thought we should reach out to that might have interest in coming to Marshfield, as well as I'd like to set up a meeting maybe with the Sand Valley folks. I think that they have a really good program there that they're working on for recruiting and retaining and training chefs. And also Midstate has a program that they're doing in Southwood County on, I can't remember the title of it, but it's in the process of anything related to restaurants. So managing a restaurant, being a chef, all the things that goes into that. So I think there's ways we can partner and continue to help that go forward. I think that's it right now. So
Any questions or comments? Mary Jo.
Yeah, you are correct. I did have that on the agenda, but I thought looking top down, it was important to talk about the comprehensive plan first.
Sure.
I would love to talk to you offline about possible ideas there with restaurants. I think to develop that hospitality management side of things, these kids coming out of school, and maybe if there's a way for us to, through economic development, help these kids get established in a business here in town. So we're kind of growing our own. But yeah, I will talk to you offline about that and see what we can do
Great.
for the next meeting, okay?
I love that idea. Thank you.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I'm not close enough. Usually I talk too loud. It could be something that we look at, even a grant. If we find a strong possibility of somebody that's interested in learning more about this, the grant could be we put them through that hospitality management training or something like that too. So anyway, we will talk offline, and that's it, unless there's other questions.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Visit Marshfield, Matt.
You can bear with me for a brief second.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. For those out in Zoom land here, I'm pleased to announce we got the cover of the Fun in Wisconsin Fall Winter Guide. It's one of the major tourism magazines around the state. So this is all around the state. It was released a couple weeks ago. We also have 3 pages of a feature story as well on the inside. So really excited about this. I'll leave some of these copies here at City Hall, and we're getting them all around town. So yeah, Winter Wonderland is almost upon us. I've been working with the Rotary Club, so we do some marketing on the Visit Marshfield side as well in conjunction as doing marketing with Rotary. So we got some joint funds working together to promote that great event. Again, it starts the day after Thanksgiving and runs through New Year's Eve. More magazine stuff. We are really kind of getting into crunch time for our visitor guide. So I've been talking with Kaylee and many other partners. We want to showcase all the great things happening in the community and get all those dates for 2024 ready and make sure we can showcase everything to bring helping visitors to town. I'm glad Karen mentioned those videos with Wood County. I've been involved with that project a little bit. Besides the Makerspace video, we also have a Bluff to Bluff race video featuring Powers Bluff. And so that one will be coming out shortly. And I think it's going to make some, get some good eyes on it. It's through the Discover Wisconsin network. And so the Uniquely Wisconsin Discover Wisconsin have a pretty good push to get those out and get some eyes on them. So we're excited about that on the tourism and the economic development side. I was lucky enough to try the new Indian restaurant yesterday, so it was pretty yummy. They are rolling out kind of slow, and been in on a couple of meetings with Karen, and we're trying to give them some advice, maybe make sure you focus on some takeout, and definitely get out there. So I think that will be something new. So definitely looking forward to help promote them and try to make them a success. Again, the name is Al Medina, and they are currently open. It's kind of a soft rollout open. Let's see. We're excited that the Grey Dog Axe Throwing recently opened. I think entertainment like that, especially downtown, is a great something to trumpet. I did recently get hotel numbers for September, and we were up 13% in occupancy year over year versus last year, which is good. Last year was a record year, and I think we're pacing just slightly behind last year, which was a bit of a surprise to me. We're expecting kind of the post-COVID bump and then things to come back down a bit, but they're still staying up there pretty good. I've been meeting with Jurassic Park, Friends of Jurassic Park and Clyde. We're talking about future plans for that. So we're kind of currently looking at some designs and kind of figuring out what we think the future of Jurassic Park may look like. Also been in some discussions regarding the fairgrounds and a new possible exposition center / conference center. So excited to be a partner of that project to kind of talk and see what could be a big economic development piece there. Let's see. Also, we did surpass 27,000 Facebook followers this past month. So really proud of that. Like to say, 7,000 more followers than people who live in Marshfield. I think that's really a brief update. Any questions?
Questions for Matt? Oh, you must have done a good job.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Jason, do you have anything? Yeah, I do. Okay, sure.
Okay, well, we'll shift gears here and talk a little bit about broadband. So I know it's not a real big deal for the city, I'm assuming. I think the city is pretty well covered. You have a couple options as far as providers. But really, if you're your neighboring communities, which is kind of surprising, Town of Lincoln and Town of Marshfield are really considered underserved by standard. I mean, as far as the availability of multiple providers and the quality of speed that they have out there. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but right now the rest of the county is pretty much covered, not as far as active broadband, high-speed internet working, but as far as funding committed to get projects done. So really the only remaining areas in the county right now where the focus is Town of Lincoln and Town of Marshfield. We're working, the county and the county broadband team are working with Country Wireless to submit a broadband application to the Public Service Commission. And that grant is due on November 7th. It's about a $7 million project. Country Wireless is looking to fund about half of that up from their own funds, and the rest would be grant funds. And that hopefully will have some success to get that area covered with fiber in the ground for the Town of Lincoln. This wouldn't cover the Town of Marshfield. So really right now, our big focus in the county is, as far as infrastructure goes, is in the area surrounding Marshfield, and we hope that grant's successful. If this grant cycle is not successful, there's what's called a BEAD grant funding opportunity next year. That's federal money. It's about $43 billion nationwide, about $1 billion that'll be given to Wisconsin. And hopefully through that funding, that area will be addressed if it's not addressed in this next coming cycle here. And I believe BEAD stands for broadband. Too many acronyms. Some broadband something and deployment, enhancement and deployment. We do have a task force as far as broadband goes too. And that group is not just looking at infrastructure, but we're also addressing things like, having equipment to access the internet and having or getting a discount or incentive to access the broadband service. Right now, there's a federal program that provides like a $30 per month discount for that or a check for that. Because we realize even if people have access to broadband as far as fiber right outside their front door, they may not have the money or the computer equipment and things like that, or the knowledge to utilize it. So there's going to be ongoing efforts with that, even once the infrastructure is in place. And if you know anybody that wants to be a part of that group, please let me know and we'll plug them in. One thing I want to circle back on, there's been a lot of talk about different teams out there, for housing, for entrepreneurship, for broadband, and it gets hard to keep track of all that stuff, for childcare, so the county is working on what we call a dashboard that'll provide, the people that are on those teams provide the meeting minutes or the meeting notes that are taken when those meetings occur. So if you want to plug into those groups or see what they're doing, you'll be able to check that out in the future. It's not live yet. We just did a presentation to Seed Committee yesterday on what the dashboard could look like. But also, if you know of people that want to be involved with those groups are open to involvement from the general public to participate in, from all sectors and all backgrounds, things like that. So we hope to involve more people in that. One thing I want to mention too, just a reminder, Wood County is a paying member of the North Central Wisconsin Regional Plan Commission. And typically this time of year, we start talking about work planning. They have limited staff, limited resources. So we want to give them an idea of projects that we want to work on in the county. Because the county is a paying member, the city has full access to the resources of the Regional Plan Commission. Some services are free of charge to the city. Other services are for charge, but typically they charge a lot less than a consultant would charge. Their services aren't a perfect fit for everything, but I think they could help out with the city long term. So if you have any ideas on future projects, even if they're a few years out, just maybe let me know. And I'll let the Regional Plan Commission know that they should schedule those for, future consideration. Also, they provide, resources as far as like economic development data, demographic data. They have a software package called MC that they can get a lot of information out. So keep them in mind if you need help down the road here. And even if you're not sure that they can do something, just maybe have a conversation with myself or Dennis Lawrence at our PC and see if they can help out. That there was something else. So just going to mention Uniquely Wisconsin, that came up a few times here. So most of the work is done with those productions. And I think we're to the point now we're going to coordinate the rollout. You can access some of those videos out there right now, but you really have to look to find them. So at some point here, I'd like to talk to the city staff and, make sure Mackie and the CVB and make sure the rollout's done properly and well, make sure people are aware of that marketing material that we have out there. So I think with that, I'll wrap it up. I think I'm forgetting something, but it'll come to me probably my drive home. Thanks, everyone.
Any questions for Jason?
I need to jump in real quick. I need to leave. So I just want to thank everybody, and we'll catch you guys at the next meeting.
Okay. Bye, Andrew. Real quick, I got a question for you, Jason. Sorry.
Yes.
So with the broadband and the reach. So I live in the town of Lincoln. My husband's a town supervisor out there. I have been beating the drum for years on the lack of broadband out there.
Yes.
I finally now got Starlink at my house. I was on a 2-year waiting list for that. This is the first time my kids could actually do their homework at home without having to come into town. I was just able to get rid of my landline because of this. So we need to remember that internet is infrastructure that we need to keep investing in. The problem with Country Wireless and some of these, you're not getting enough choices. The crazy thing, my friend used to work for Frontier. There's buried fiber, dead, dark, buried fiber running through most of the town of Lincoln and the town of Marshfield. It's underutilized. And Paul, you sit on our committee with us here. I think it would be an opportunity for the utilities, and you could charge for it. Light up that fiber, buy it, and you're giving these people choices too, because when you get one person, whether it's Country Wireless that controls it, now they can charge whatever they want for it. You have a little bit more competition in this space, whether it's the utility company or Country Wireless, you're giving people choices and driving that cost down. I know up in Rice Lake, around the town of Cedar Lake, probably about 25 years ago, they buried fiber. And it's crazy. My cabin up in the middle of nowhere, I have better internet there than I do 4 miles out of the city of Marshfield. I am on Highway H. I'm on a main road. I have the UW Systems fiber that's right outside my door and the school systems fiber. And nobody has had the foresight to maybe say, hey, let's jump on this while they're burying. We have these utility customers that we serve. Why don't we just piggyback? And that would be a revenue source for them too. So Paul, I encourage you to look into that. I have Starlink now, so I'm fine, but people can't afford Starlink either. That's the other thing. So to give people options. But Jason, I applaud you for what you're doing with the broadband. It is infrastructure. It needs to get help. If there's anything I can do on my end as well, I'm happy to assist.
Well, thank you. If you want to be part of our broadband group, you can. Because like I said, in Wood County, this is one of the last areas that really needs to be addressed. There's a lot of parts, the rural part of the county yet that don't have it, but there's federal funding put aside to get it done. I'm very surprised with town of Lincoln with the demographics there, that there's no coverage. You're right, there is Frontier probably fiber in the ground. That information will not be shared with people like myself or the public. So it's very difficult getting a handle on the existing fiber infrastructure out there. It's also extremely difficult to get the different providers cooperating. They do their own thing. It's easier for them to do their own thing than to cooperate with their competition. So I'm probably as frustrated, if not more frustrated than you are. Well, you're probably more frustrated because you have to get Starlink, but yeah, so it's a rough area to work in because there's just lack of coordination and competition and all the federal money just raining down that probably is not being used as efficiently as it should be. But in summary here, we're gonna get it done in Lincoln and Marshfield eventually here. Hopefully within the next year, the funding will be put aside to get that area addressed.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Jason. I just want to thank our partners, Main Street, Mackey, Visit Marshfield. We have great working relationships, and I have to thank everybody with the county communication between the city and county is a step up from what we were in the past, and it's because of the people involved. So thank you guys. I do have one last thing that I want to mention. December 16th, we have what's called Wreaths Across America. And Tim Norland from Rail Transport is the local rep for that. They make these wreaths, and Rail Transport's going to deliver them up here to Hillside Cemetery. And they will have a ceremony on the 16th, with December 16th, which is a Saturday. And people can sponsor wreaths for their veterans' graves. It's like I say, it's going to be a ceremony up there. And then afterwards, we're going to invite all the people that are up there, the live ones, to the community center by our military wall. And we're going to have coffee and hot chocolate and Christmas cookies. I heard Kaylee and a couple other ladies were going to do them. Maybe I didn't hear that part. But it's going to be a great, it's really going to be a great event. Look it up on the internet, Wreaths Across America. They've put wreaths all over the country. Arlington National Cemetery is a big one they do. And I met with them out at Rail, and it's going to be growing every year in Marshfield. So it's going to be a great event. So I think Tim Norland is the gentleman at Rail Transport that puts this together. So thank you to them. And we'll go to suggested items for future agendas. Anybody have anything? Mary Jo, you have, I forget what you were going to bring up now.
We've already discussed that. Casperson will come to the next meeting possibly to discuss the pickleball court.
Way to bail me out, Natalie. Anybody else have anything?
Karen Isaacson, the restaurant thing, I think that's important that we set a deadline for that her and I get together and talk, or it'll be another month that'll go by. And then Rick, maybe to come back and talk about comprehensive plan and where he sees Marshfield.
Okay. Okay, next meeting will be Thursday, December 7th at 7:30 in the council chambers. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Paul?
Sure.
John, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, everyone.